Hey, how you doing? This is Kitch, and you are watching me play Factorio. I've been kind of looking at this station a little bit, and I think I want to modify some things. Let's see. Let's take all of this out, and yeah, you need to go away. We don't need you no more. Well, we need you. Just not right now. And I think what I want to do is, instead of making it to where we're delivering two things, we're going to be making red and green science here, right? We only need two things brought in for the train for that. We need iron, we need copper. And we have two stations, one for iron and one for copper, and I don't think that that's going to be necessary. I think we can swing it by with one station, one giving us a belt of copper, and this side we will make a belt of iron. So I went up and grabbed some stack filter inserters, and I think I want to modify this to use that instead. And basically make it to where we unload copper on this side and iron on the other side. So that'll make it to where we can do it with one station. We need some green wire. And I think that's going to work out better. So let's put both requests on here. 100. And let's just call this drop. Drop. The advantage we had of having the separate ones is we can name all of our stations for what was dropping. Let's just call this drop red science for now. And that will be fine. All right, we should have the green wire. Let's go ahead and hook all of these inserters up. That's going to go across that. You are going to connect up on this side. And I think we just want to enable disable when we could do this a couple of different ways. We could say when copper equals 2, or actually, let's say let's try to keep it consistent. Let's say the enabled condition is going to be was it everything or anything? I think it's anything equal to 2. And we want to set your filter to copper plates on that side, just manually. And that's going to be the same, except you are going to be set to iron manually. Okay, and where does this wire go? This needs to be hooked up to this down here on the signal coming out between those two combinators. So just like that, right? Okay, and we can have copper coming down and iron then coming down. Let's set you. Okay, you have your all set. We'll set that to automatic, and let's get another train moving here. We need to get some real fuel for these guys. But you're going to go to pick up iron until you're full, and then come to drop red green science. And I think we set that to just an activity for 1 second. Okay, you will come in, and that should unload. All right, and we just unload copper on that side. I'll go and turn those things back on. And then when the iron train comes back around, that should unload that side. And let's see. You know what? I pulled that underground up. Let's get that going back again. Just so we can send these down next to each other. We still want 2 separate belts like that. That iron? Nope, that's more copper. That's good. Go ahead and take you guys. Can we take... Just go ahead and take that the max distance. All right, and this will be the supply. Okay, here comes our iron. Very good. All right. I think that's going to work for us. We'll probably have to adjust these two numbers just to get more to supply what we're going to build down here. But I think that's a good start. So this one over here, this one's going to end up being... we can simplify this a bit, I think. Yeah, we don't need nearly all this stuff. We could have just done that right there, and we probably should have. All right, so all the chests are still hooked up. We may be interested in looking at that number at some point, but right now I don't think we do. We can just turn this into a loading station. And we'll have basically just red and green science coming up. And I think we could probably just do something like this. Because the science is going to be coming in at a relatively smaller pace. And we probably don't even need stack inserters. We could probably replace these with just fast inserters due to the rate at which science is going to be coming out. All right, that is looking good. Yeah, there's still some more modifications to this station that I would like to do. Okay, and since they have everything they need, that signal's off. Those trains are resting right there. I don't like that. We're going to have to do something about that. But I do want to go ahead and get this thing set up down here. So let's go ahead. We'll roll the intro, and we'll get some science being made. All right, so as far as how I want to set this science stuff up, this is kind of the theme that I want to go for this base. And we'll see how it works out. I'm sure it'll be fine. We might have to change some philosophies as we move forward and around and underneath. But I don't know. I think this will get us started at least in the beginning. Okay, so we're gonna need some green circuits being made. We're gonna need inserters being made. We're gonna need 2 gear machines, one right there, one right there. And we're going to need one right here that is going to be making railroad transport belt. And this should give us all of the things that we need. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6. I think what the numbers are is we're going to need 7 machines making red science. And 8 machines making green science. So as you can see, I'm just doing like a little space pattern here, and we've actually got an extra spot right there, but I'm fine with that. Let's see, you're going to be making red. 4, 5, 6, 7, and you guys over here on this end will be making the green stuff. All right, very good. And then what I want to do is get a single red belt. And that's right, we are going to do some sushi setups here. And we'll just take this single belt. It will go all the way around. Like this right here. You guys... Let's see, we are going to need a belt feeding that on. We're going to need a belt combining you two together. And then we'll need a little bit of an area. Let's see, if I move that splitter right there, that's going to mess that up. Yeah, so that actually has to be a space off. I mean, realistically, we could combine those like side loading or something like that, but this will work for now. It'll be just fine. All right, fish, you're going to flip to the other side so that doesn't mess our counts off. And then we're going to need a couple of more splitters down here. And you are going to filter off green science, and you will filter off red science. And yeah, we'll just take that up right like that. And maybe we filter it off again. Let's filter off greens. It'll go on the right-hand side. Not that it matters. Let's do this. Let's do this differently. Now that I'm looking at it again and thinking about it. Let's take that straight up, and we'll do it underground this way. There we go, and filter red science off to the left like that. And I'm going to curl those belts in just for fun. And yeah, let's just go ahead and see if we can get by with just the blue inserters here. And then we can double check that all those are facing the right way. And they are. There we go. I like that. I like that a lot better. All right, so we're going to need to... Some of these are going to insert in, and some of these are going to push out. So you're going to go in and out. And I think most of these other things are going to go in and out as well. Okay, that will work. Actually, let's set it all up for an in... In, out, out. And let's see, we're going to have some wires running here. We are going to have a red wire. We are going to have a green wire. The ones that are... bringing in are going to be hooked up to the red wire. The ones that are facing out are going to be connected to the green wire, just generically. You are going to read the hand contents if you are coming in. And you are going to read the hand contents, and you're also going to have some sort of condition yet to be determined. Let's just start out with less than 20 with wood. All right, and the reason I wanted to do that was so that we can just blueprint this pattern all along. And have at least some of the initial logic set up for everything. And boy, did I mess that up. I submit that I did. Oh yeah, no, this is all wrong. Ah, I see what I did. This is not going to work. That's the problem. I'm off by one. Let's start that right here. There, 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 there. And that would technically be right. There. All right, very good. And we can go ahead and connect. Where do we want to do it? I guess over here would be fine. The green wire going up there, and the red wire going in like that. All right, so we don't need that one. We don't need that one. We're not going to be sending wire out onto the line. We're not going to be sending circuits out onto the line. We are going to be sending those. We are going to be sending those. And let's see. You are going to be... But we don't care about the science that goes out. We don't need to count that. Or limit that in any way. But we do want to take what comes in. All right, I think that's right. We need to get that direct feeding in, that direct feeding in, that direct feeding in, and that direct feeding in. Is that covered by power? They sure are. All right, and I think that is set up. Let's see. I didn't do any real calculations here. We've got 6 of these. You need 6 seconds-ish. Let's do inserters 20. I was going to do 18, but it's already set at 20. That seems reasonable. Let's do the same for gears. Let's just start it all out at 20. I'll get into explaining what I'm doing here. If you've seen one of my sushi series before, you may know what I'm doing. I'm actually set this up before. I'm just kind of setting the numbers to limit how many items are going to be on this belt at a given time. All right, I think that looks good. I think we can go ahead and start with that. All right, let's get... so if you don't know what a sushi belt is, the whole idea is that we're going to send copper and iron onto this belt, and these things are going to pull off of that belt. We're just going to have one belt, right? And everything's going to take what it needs off of that belt and then place what it produces on that belt. And so it's all just going to go around here in a circle. We are going to add our 2 ingredients, copper and iron, up here as they are needed. And we're going to pull off the science down here as it is generated. That's going to go up in that station, and we'll have a train go take it off to where our labs are. Now, we can't just let things go willy-nilly because the belt will back up, and bad things will happen, and everything will come to a grinding, screeching halt, which can happen with sushi setups. So you have to have you have to limit the amount of items that you actually have on the belt so that there's room to place items as they are produced. This one's going to be relatively simple, very, very simple setup, just simply because we're not dealing with that many items. I'm sure they're going to get a lot more complex as we move on. And I did have a series a while ago where I was playing with a different kind of sushi setup that, depending on how some of these recipes get, we might have to look into implementing something like that on like yellow or purple science or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But I think this setup right here is going to work out throughput-wise. I've actually, in that series, I did something very similar. It was for less science a minute, but I think it's going to work. So let's just find out. Let's build our control circuitry for this right here. What I do is I take a couple of combinators, and let's just go ahead and hook this up to power. Because I'm sick of everything blinking. And with this combinator, we're going to create a simple counter. We're going to take each signal coming in, we're going to add 0 to it, and we're going to output each signal. Now, there's a couple different ways to do counters. That's just the way that I like to do it. There are ways you can do it with decider combinators, where you send things. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. I'm not convinced, really, that either one of them is more or less correct. This is just the way that I've always done it, and it seems to work out fairly well. So in an arithmetic combinator set for each signal coming in, we're going to add 0 to that and output that signal. And then we are going to basically wire up the input to the output so that that signal just keeps going back and forth. And it's going to maintain that signal. And if we get an external signal coming in on this green wire as things are added, that's going to basically increment that counter. I did a series, I think it was in that creative series, where I went through and basically did a frame-by-frame, step-by-step of how this counter works. If you're interested, I'll try to remember to leave a link to that in the description. But that's going to count the items. This is going to count the items that we place on the belt. So as we add copper and iron to this belt, we want to increment it in this. As we add inserters and gears and things like that, we're going to keep track of that. And whenever we said, I'm going to limit this where I only want 20 inserters on the line, it's going to be comparing it to this right here. It's this count that we're going to be looking at. All right, so we're going to want to wire that into the network. Let's see, did I set that to count the items as well? Read hand contents? I did. Very good. So whenever it adds, it's going to send a signal back, and it's also going to turn itself off based on how many items are out there. Now, the other thing is we have this red wire. This red wire, this guy is set to read the hand contents, so it's going to read the items that it's pulling off, and all of these have those. So each time an item is pulled off, it's going to basically send it on this red line. Now, we want to keep track of that as well, and that's where this other combinator comes into play. We are going to take that red signal, send it to the back of this combinator. We're going to take each signal coming in, we're going to multiply that by a -1 and send that out. So this is going to be our subtractor. Every time one of these guys takes an item off, we're going to pulse it up through here. That's going to multiply it by -1, so that is going to make -1, and then we're going to take that signal and shove it into the back of our counter so that it'll actually decrement the counter. All right, and I think that logic is good to go. I want to go ahead and set up some counters and breaks over here for these guys. Will this reach that far? It will. Will it reach that far? It will. Now, I never can remember, are counters on this side or this side? I think they're on this side. We want one of these to read the belt contents. And that is going to read the items that are placed onto the belt. And this is going to be our break that is enabled, disabled. We want to enable this when copper is less than I don't know, maybe 150 we'll start at. And we'll do the same for iron. 150. I don't remember what the ratio is for iron to copper. I believe it's a little more iron, but I'm not sure. I think it's like a 1.5 to 1 ratio or something like that. So these are going to read the amount of items that we're putting on, and once we get over that limit of how many we want on that belt, that is going to put this break on, so that's going to stop the items from coming through. And then as the copper and iron get taken off here, that should subtract that number, and so it should just trickle those items back on. And now that I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and bump up these numbers a little bit. Maybe let's do 500 copper and 500 iron. Did I ever get an iron train? I did. Good. Trusting but verifying. Very good. Let's call this something else. Let's call it pickup. Red. Green. Science. All right, now, is this going to work? I'm not sure. I guess the only way to test it, for sure, is to turn it on and see what we did wrong. I'm sure I did something wrong. Don't know what. So those are going to go until we get 150 of those things on the belt. Let's take a look at our count. All right, we got that, and it's going to just start trickling these guys out as they get used up. That is looking pretty good to me. Let's see. I mean, it looks like some science is being built. We do have a problem in that all the items that are being created are being placed on the outside of the belt. That is not going to be optimal. But we do have stuff being made. It looks like we've got, yeah, it's going to be just balancing out the numbers, I think, from here on out. But it looks like all the red machines are running, and it looks like all of the green machines are running right now. So we're actually in a really good spot, and we do actually have science being made and coming out and being put into chests up here, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so one thing, one thing while I'm looking at some of this is that if you look, you think about if you had a science setup like this, you know, like in a normal Factorio game, one science a second's pretty common setup, actually generally a little bit less. You can imagine like the full red or the full belts of iron and copper coming in to support these guys and stuff like that. But when you actually look at the factories that you need to make, and you come and look at something like this, and you can see the rate at which the items are actually being used, it kind of makes you realize that generally, in Factorio, at least the way that I normally play, is basically a lot of overkill. You don't need nearly as much as you think you do in these tiny little locations. We could probably go by with a little bit less on some of these, actually. Maybe... Oh, our trains are out of gas. Trains are out of gas. That's not a good sign. But we kind of need to get this turned off anyway, because... yeah, it's not really being used for a lot. Do we have... let's see, where's the coal? Coal's coming in over here, I believe. We can go ahead and get a nice big armful of coal. Oh, stupid robots building stuff. I'm gonna end up building all of these furnaces just from robots that I forget that I have turned on. That's a lot of coal right there. That's actually a little bit more than I was wanting to get. Oh well, it'll get used. Come on, guys. All right, where did they die at? Right here. And that'll at least get them going for a little while. All right, well, I'm hoping that's going to work. Whenever we get iron moving back into the system, I think it will. And yeah, just a whole bunch of little setups like this. I mean, our next one's going to be you. And you are going to need stone bricks, coal, iron, copper, and steel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we'll be able to do that with a couple of stations. We'll get us a little sushi setup going, and we'll start making military science, which is something that we do actually need to get going. Well, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next episode where we're going to do that, or we're going to look into some further refinements to this station. I haven't really thought about it yet. But either way, I will see you then. Have a good one.